You're listening to 105.5 The Colorado Sound. Remember, you can hear us around the world at coloradosound.org. My name's Ben. I'm really excited to be joined by Jarvis Cocker, lead singer of the band Pulp. They'll be at Red Rocks on Monday. Jarvis,
Yeah,
thanks for being here.
yeah, thanks. I'm very much looking forward to going to Red Rocks. I've been told that the dressing room is a cave, so that's going to it might be
Yes.
difficult to get me out of that. I've got a bit of an obsession with caves.
Yeah, you're it's actually it's a wild venue. I mean, you're like inside of a giant rock. So yeah, you're basically in a cave. I do want to ask you though, Jarvis, about your new album. Pulp
Okay.
released their first album in 24 years, called More earlier this year. It's a two-parter for you because first of all, what made you decide to release a new album after over 2 decades? And how
Yeah.
would you say it differs from your previous work?
Okay. Well, the way it came about was really that we started to play a new song whilst we were on tour. We were on tour in 2023. There was a song that I'd written for a stage production in the UK, a play called Light Falls, written by a playwright called Simon Stevens, and we played that song, and it went down okay. So I thought, okay, let's see if we can do some more. So we wrote a couple of other songs, and in my mind, I thought, okay, maybe we could do an album, but I knew the band would be scared about that because the last two Pulp albums had taken a long time. So I said we were just doing them to play live, and then eventually had to admit that I would like to make a record.
That's
And
great.
as for how it was different, um, well, the main difference was because I didn't feel like I was having to cajole the band, but I knew that the reason why those two Pulp albums, the last two Pulp albums before More, had taken so long was really down to me. I would change my mind on lyrics and things and stuff. So I'd always had this habit that I wouldn't write the lyrics until like maybe the day before we were going to record the song.
Wow.
And I thought, I'm getting on now. Maybe I could try and mature a little and write the words before we went into the studio. And
Wow.
yeah, and I know, amazing insight I got there. But the thing is, it made the whole process so much easier because I was a lot more relaxed because I used to get really uptight in the studio because as soon as the music was finished, I never wanted the recording the music to finish because then I knew that was when I had to write the words. I would have ideas for words and I might have one or two lines, but I wouldn't have the whole lyrics. So this time going in with the words was good for me feeling relaxed, but also I think really helped the record because the producer, James Ford, what he would do is when we'd recorded the backing track to a song, he would say, can you just do a guide vocal so I know where the gaps are? So I would do that. And on the finished record, I would say 80% of the vocals is what I recorded immediately after doing the song. And I never would have been able to do that before because I wouldn't have written them. So I've learned a lesson. Any young songwriters or people who are thinking of going into a studio, that is my advice for you. Write the words before you go in the studio.
And now I'm trying to picture Pulp as like an instrumental band. I would say that your band, a band that's reached a very high level of success, you followed a more traditional path. I mean, some bands are lucky enough to have their breakthrough album be their debut album, but that's not the case for Pulp. You guys have been around you'd been making albums for over a decade before you finally broke through in the mid
Yeah,
90s. What
yeah.
was that feeling like, though, when you finally reached that? You finally got the spotlight that you deserved.
Um, yeah, it was amazing. I mean, the time when we that became clear to us most vividly, I suppose, was when we were called in to replace the Stone Roses at very short notice.
Oh,
They,
wow.
yeah, they were supposed to be headlining on the Saturday night of Glastonbury Festival, and John Squire fell off a mountain bike. I think here in the US, he was going down Mount Tamalpais, I think, and he fell off. So that was we stepped in for them. I think it was 3 weeks after Common People had been a hit in the UK, And so it was the first show that we played since it had been a hit. So I will never forget that evening because when we played Common People, there was this weird sound coming from the audience. And then suddenly I realized the weird sound was they were singing along to it. And that had
That's
never,
awesome.
yeah, that had never ever happened to Pulp. And so, yeah, it was I realized that we had crossed over some kind of threshold into a different mode of existence at that point.
So I'm talking to Jarvis Cocker, lead singer of the band Pulp. They'll be at Red Rocks on Monday. And now, Jarvis, you're more than, you're an artist. You're more than just a musician. I know you're a big movie guy. You studied film at St. Martin's in London. You've done some voice acting. Fantastic, Mr. Fox. You're a big movie guy. So what would you say are some of your go-to movies?
Um, well, I like films like, there's a film called Kes made by Ken Loach. That was a film, I think, early 70s. And I think it got released in America. I think maybe they put subtitles on it because people were speaking in very broad north of England accents. But it's a story of a kid who lives in a mining community and he finds this kestrel and he trains it. And it's a brilliant film. The music in it is really good as well. And I would say, for a North American viewer, it would probably be a bit exotic, but it's the nearest film, I think. If you look at the scenes in schools and stuff like that are in the film, very, very similar to how I remember my school days. So you could get an insight into Pulp's background by watching that film.
What was it like working with Wes Anderson on Fantastic Mr. Fox?
Yeah, well, I mean, for Fantastic Mr. Fox, I did some voice stuff after. It was an animated film, so I wasn't involved. But I was in Asteroid City, and that was an amazing experience. That was towards the end of the lockdown. Uh, all the people who were in the film, they all had dinner together at night, and seeing how Wes works, he it's a bit like going back to film school in a way because what he does, say for instance with Asteroid City, there was a library of DVDs, things that could help people get in the right mood or things that had influenced how he was going to make that film, and also people could show their own movies or things that they'd worked on. So it was a really good creative atmosphere to be in. I loved it.
I have, I have one more for you, Jarvis, and I ask this to every band and artist that I talk to. So I'd love to
Okay.
hear it from you. So the radio station that we're on is 105.5 FM. It's 105.5 the Colorado Sound. So
Yeah.
what band or artist would you drive 105.5 miles to go see? And it can be any band or artist ever.
What bands that still exist?
It can be any band ever. It could be Beethoven. You just have
Oh, right.
to drive 105.5 miles to go see them.
Oh, well, I would go and see Scott Walker, I guess. Although he never ever played any concerts. But if I'd have heard Scott Walker was doing a concert, I would have driven anywhere in the world to go and see that. I love his voice. I did get to know him a bit because he produced a Pulp record, and he was a unique guy. And yeah, I would go. I would go to another planet to see him if he was playing.
I love it. I love it. Well, Jarvis, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it, and good luck on Monday at Red Rocks.
Yeah, well, if you're around, come down and have a look.
I may just do that. I can
All
get some
right.
tickets, so I might see you then.
All right. Nice one. Nice to speak to you. Bye.